standard, giving guidelines based on what's the community standards are and other factors to determine what is and isn't protected under freedom of speech. My guests today include people from different perspectives. Bill Margold is an actor and a director and a 16-year veteran of the X-rated industry. He testified in front of the Mies Commission on pornography. We also have Sylvia Sellers. She is a commissioner in the Los Angeles County Commission on Obscenity and Pornography, also the executive director of Child Molestation Prevention, and also Alan Sears by telephone. Alan Sears is the executive director, or was the executive director, of Attorney General Edwin Meese's Commission on Pornography, and he is also an attorney and the legal counsel for Citizens for Decency Through the Law. Let me first say hello to Bill Margold. Hello, Bill.
How do you do?
And also to Sylvia Sellers, who's here in studio.
Hello, John.
And we'll go to Alan Sears, who's on the phone lines. Good afternoon, Mr. Sears.
Glad to be with you, John.
Indeed. Well, let's start with perhaps a few definitions here and a few understandings as far as our background. Perhaps, Bill Margold, to start with you. You come from the perspective that in a free society we ought to have the right to observe and participate in anything we want to.
Yes, I do, based on the consenting adult theory, that we should not legislate morality when we're dealing with adults. And the mainstream X-rated industry, pornographic industry, deals with consenting adults. I'm not talking about child pornography, I'm not talking about bestiality, I'm not talking about aberrant sexuality, all of which Mr. Sears knows that I testified in the Mies Commission about the mainstream adult pornographic business. He knows what I'm talking about, consenting adults. Don't meddle with consenting adults, because they'll meddle back.
We'll let him comment on that in a moment. Sylvia, perhaps your perspective on this issue of obscenity and pornography. What's your position?
My position is that pornography is detrimental to women and to children, and there has been empirical data supplied by the experts, although we don't have to supply that to enforce the law, that there is a connection between people who are addicted and watch pornography to crimes against women and children. And what Bill Margold just said about consenting adults, it does not matter if the material is for consenting adults. If it's obscene, it is still against the law. It is illegal.
Alan Sears in Phoenix, Arizona, I believe. What's your perspective?
Well, John, Sylvia makes many appropriate comments, but also one thing that we have to say in response to what Bill Margold said. The work that was reviewed by the Commission, done at several campuses in the United States, not work done by the Republican Justice Department or any kind of group that you can accuse of being prejudiced, just college professors doing their little studies on their own grants, found that the largest category of consumers of all forms of hardcore pornography are children between the ages of 12 to 17. In fact, the University of Houston survey found that the average age of first exposure to hardcore pornography was 13 and a half years. And even if we talk about a business that, let's say it was sanitized, where everybody involved did what Bill Margold would like to see people do, and that's sign a contract with full understanding what they were doing and be nice to each other, not beat each other, not use animals, not use weird things like a large segment of the material sold in the country is. But even if it was as nice as can be, we're still talking about materials that are inappropriate for exposure to children. We also are talking about materials used by pedophiles, child molesters, to lower the inhibitions of children. So in the real world, we don't really have a consenting adult question here, because in the real world, the largest category of consumers of all forms of pornography are 12 to 17-year-old kids. And I think that's a real problem.
Let me ask Bill Margold. Bill, if we go back to a 1973 case decided at the same time as Miller, that was the Paris Adult Theater case, it said that the pornographic films don't acquire constitutional immunity because they are merely exhibited for adults only. The reasoning being that it seems that these materials that may be for adults only seem to filter down into the hands of young people, as Alan Sears was just saying.
But everything filters down into the hands of young people. Then you have to forbid the children from watching newsreels. You have to forbid the children from watching anything that might be graphic violent. I might state that the opening statement I read to the Mies Commission fits in very nicely here. In a society that is drug-infested, violence-racked, and polluted by chemical greed, might I respectfully remind this commission that no one has ever died from an overdose of pornography. Now, I know that Mr. Sears and the lady to my left will cry that pornography is the bane of all that is wrong in the world, that anything, taxes and poverty and all the diseases are the blame of pornography. I'm sorry, we're no longer the whipping boy. We have indeed, tragically, mainstream pornography become rather passé. We've been around for 20 years, and if, as I warned the Meese Commission, you allowed us to simply go our merry way, we'd probably disappear. But if you drive us out of business, if you drive us back underground, where we were born, then we can do what we want. We censor ourselves. We protect ourselves from defiling children and from the animal sex and from the aberrant sexuality. And as you stated, it was a large part of your commission's finding because you went into the underbelly of pornography. You did not scrape along the top surface of pornography where I and the mainstream X-rated industry exists.
Well, sadly, I wish Bill's responsibility would spread over to the rest of the industry. For example, I'm holding in my hand right now as we talk a copy of the March 1988 Adult Video News that has the obituary of one Steve Scott and one Steve West, both who died of AIDS, who had made many films involving sexual activity with both, in some instances, heterosexual, some homosexual sex. Of course, everybody's heard of John Holmes, who died a few weeks ago. John Holmes had bragged he'd had sex with more than 3,000 individuals during his lifetime. I have seen many of the films, or have been shown stills from many of the films with these individuals involved who recently died of AIDS, all within the last 6 months. Not one of these individuals was ever doing anything called a safe sex practice. In fact, there were many other practices that are very specifically condemned by the medical practice in this country.
Go ahead, Sylvia.
Bill Margold has just stated that he never knew anyone who died of an overdose of pornography. Let me tell you that I have probably personally handled hundreds of cases of kids who've been molested, young women who've been raped, and they were raped in their own home after their father had become addicted to pornography, watching it, got up, went in, and actually molested 4 of the children in that same home. Now, you say that no one's ever died of an overdose of pornography. Let me tell you, some of those kids are dead emotionally. Absolutely dead emotionally. You can be dead emotionally and not physically.
But rape,
and that is due to pornography
watching.
Is not. Yes, it is.
No, because rape and molestation are acts of hatred, and pornography preaches love and lust.
Pornography
they have nothing
does not
to do
preach love
with
and
hatred.
lust.
Oh, it most certainly
does. It teaches lust, all right, but no love.
Let me jump in and referee this a second and ask you this, Bill. For example, there's another practice many people are involved in, autoeroticism, that sometimes involves a type of strangulation effect to an heightened sensitivity, don't you?
But the X-rated industry doesn't play those kind of games. The X-rated industry is mainstream pornography provided for the entertainment of the masses. If they didn't want us, they wouldn't buy us at the rate of 200 million tapes a year.
So, but is that justification for continuing? Because you say you're policing the industry.
We are. Well, I'm attempting to do it. I don't allow anything that is aberrant in my acts. In fact, our business has become rather ordinary. And Mr. Sears mentions the king, John C. Holmes, dying of AIDS. I hope he would read into the king's past and find out the king was a cocaine abuser and had colon cancer, and AIDS was the last thing that killed the gentleman. Is he aware of that?
But what's very important, of course, is the fact that this gentleman was having sex with people in the industry while he had AIDS.
No, he was not.
Teaching and practices with other people.
He most certainly was not. He had no sexual contact with anybody after he discovered that he finally had contracted the AIDS syndrome.
His final discovery, that's correct. I'm not going to argue that point.
Thank you.
We have other people that... You know, Bill, there's no health precautions among many people involved in this business, aside from the harm to the actors and actresses. But what Sylvia talked about is what we heard all over the country. We had more than 350 people come before the commission to talk about the abuse in their life from pornography. We had the housewives who had their husband watching a film, even the so-called mainstream nice stuff that suggested that every woman would enjoy doing these practices. And when she said no, he would force her into doing it because his wife was aberrant. She was abnormal. We have children being taught by their own parents or by other people that activities in pornography are normal. And we know these are not normal things for children. And we know even in the mildest pornography, the average man can't do what a Bill Margold can do in the film.
Well, and the average man can't hit the baseball as well as Don Mattingly, but do you begrudge me a lifestyle?
To say that this teaches love when in fact it teaches hatred is absolutely turning the world inside out, because we teach men to hate women's bodies because their wife isn't capable of doing these things or willing.
Bill, what about that as far as...
That's not true.
What
That
about
is
the
not-
aspect... Hold on a second, Bill. What about the aspect of the degradation toward women that is depicted and practiced in many films?
It is not degradation. It is the worship of the female form. It is invariably the woman is paid more to perform. The woman is consented to the acts that she is performing, and she invariably is paid more to perform those acts. No one has ever been forced to perform a pornographic act in the mainstream industry.
Bill, are you sitting there in that chair telling me that this actually portrays love of a woman's body
Oh,
to
absolutely.
rape her, and that she enjoys
Rape?
that? And even in pornography,
Can you
I've
even-
seen that. Bill, just a moment, let me finish, okay? Now, when a woman, even in war, we know that the men are taught to kill their opponents, but they cannot think of that person as another human being. They have to think of them as an object before they can kill them. Do you know that a woman becomes an object in pornographic movies, and you're sitting there telling me that that is love and the worship of a woman's body? You are so
Absolutely.
wrong.
Oh, but then you...
Bill, and it's not a cathartic effect either. And do you know that the psychologist at UCLA, who Seymour Feshbach, who originated the cathartic effect, he has changed in the last 30 years, but nobody has ever even brought that out in a research paper.
But see, you speak from ignorance because
I don't.
Have you ever seen an X-rated movie?
I've seen an X-rated movie.
Can you tell me the title of it?
I don't remember. They never have a
that's
plot.
not good.
They never have a plot.
That's a cop-out.
But I can tell you what
Mr.
happened in it.
Sears.
I can tell you what happened in
What
it. though.
happened in it?
The woman was raped, and she was portrayed as enjoying what was happening to her body.
And that is what is called acting.
But that, all right, it's not.
Acting.
But fantasy.
Let me jump in and referee. Let me referee here. By the way, Bill, let me ask the questions, and we'll stimulate the dialogue that way. Stand by, Alan Sears. My guest today, Bill Margold. He's a 16-year veteran of the X-rated industry. Sylvia Sellers, who's on the Los Angeles County Commission on Obscenity and Pornography. And by phone, Alan Sears, an attorney who is a legal counsel for Citizens for Decency through Law and was the executive director of Edwin Misa's Commission on Pornography. Our topic, of course, obscenity and pornography. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The law offices of Berglund and Johnson have several qualified Christian attorneys. In summer,
in representing plaintiffs in personal injury cases, I bring a unique perspective to that. For the first half of my career, I represented defendants and insurance companies in personal injury cases. I bring now with me the understanding and the perspective of how the defense thinks in terms of defeating the plaintiff's case. That gives me an advantage in knowing where to target the case and how to handle the case. And my background in dealing with the criteria that insurance companies and defense counsel look for in getting a case settled has given me a good insight and opportunity to represent the plaintiff who's been personally injured.
for more information, call Berglund and Johnson at 1-800-4IF-HURT. That's 1-800-4IF-HURT. Berglund and Johnson. They're there when you need them.
Keeping you updated 4 times an hour here in the afternoon on traffic, let's go to KKLA Traffic Watch Control for the latest information. This report brought to you by Prime Time Shuttle, offering door-to-door service from your home to LAX and Burbank airports.
On the San Diego Freeway northbound south of Montana, there's an accident clearing from the number 2 lane. Southbound side of the San Diego busy, LAX to Carson, Pacific to the Garden Grove, and Fairview to El Toro. And on the Hollywood southbound, it's slowing from Vermont to the San Bernardino Freeway. I'm Denise Fondo for KKLA Traffic Watch.
Hello, I'm Mark Morris here at KKLA. And if you're like me, you're a bit skeptical when you hear people give their testimonies about how much weight they've lost in one diet or another. It always sounds a little too good to be true. Well, I saw for myself how well the Cambridge Food for Life program works. I watched Bill Price here at the station lose 25 pounds, so I decided to give the plan a try myself. And now I can speak from experience. Cambridge really does make it easy to lose weight. In 3 weeks, I've lost 15 pounds, 2 inches off my waist. I'm wearing clothes I didn't even remember I had. I don't feel deprived because I'm eating regular foods in addition to the plan. My energy level is high, and much to my surprise, I don't feel hungry all day long. So, to this doubting Thomas, seeing is definitely believing.
See for yourself how easy and effective the Cambridge Food for Life program is. Call now and get a free sample along with your free consultation. And remember, Cambridge offers an absolute money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-4HEALTH. That's 800-4-HEALTH.
Did you know that there's an incredible deception that is reshaping the Western world? Find out why as Calvary Chapel of Pasadena presents the documentary film Gods of the New Age, Friday, May 27th at 7 p.m. Also, see and hear in person Ravi Maharaj, author of Death of a Guru, Sunday night, May 29th at 6 p.m. at Calvary Chapel, Pasadena, located at 2200 East Colorado Boulevard. For information, call area code 818-584-9992.
Now, once again, here's Jon Stewart live.
We're back. Today our topic is pornography and obscenity. My guests include Bill Margold, who's part of the X-rated industry, Alan Sears, an attorney who worked on was the executive director of the Commission on Pornography set up by Attorney General Ed Meese, and also Sylvia Sellers, who's on the Los Angeles County Commission on Obscenity and Pornography. Let me begin this part by asking you, Bill, when we talk about laws that would regulate or restrict obscenity and pornography, where do you feel the line ought to be drawn? Because you say that you don't participate in things like, bestiality and some of these other weird things. Do you think any laws are legitimate?
Yes, I do think laws are legitimate, and I also suggested to the Meese Commission, and I think it's in the congressional record, that they raise the age of consent to 21 years old for a person to perform in the X-rated industry. That might appease an awful lot of consciences around society. I can't believe that they would dare tell anybody that's 21 years old or older what he or she can do with their lives.
But on what basis can you say that even 21? Because it sounds like the approach you have to sexuality is basically anything goes, and if people want to pay to see it, they ought to have a right to.
It's anything goes with consenting adults, and the people who are paid to perform it are that, performers. You have to remember that they're professional performers, actors and actresses.
But one thing the Commission did not want to do and would not use is the word actor or actress to describe people who are engaged in prostitution. And the people that control prostitution are called pimps. They're panders. It's against the law in California. It's against the law in virtually every state. I think 3 counties in Nevada have legalized prostitution, but aside from that, it's a crime. To make hardcore pornography requires prostitution. And many of the young women we interviewed that are in this so-called business, which we call a criminal enterprise because it is a violation of the law, when you make hardcore pornography, you by definition have to have pimps and prostitutes. And we found that many of these young girls had entered the business between the age of 13 to 15 years of age. In fact, that was the average. The surveys of the various prostitutes tend to indicate that they had very few economic resources. It was probably the only choice they had was whether or not they were going to eat or whether or not they were going to make a film like this. We don't feel that that's what you would call a free choice in our society. There are many people that are forced into very degrading and subjective roles, and just because they sign a little contract and take a couple $100 for a weekend of humiliation does not make it a legitimate business.
Alan, let me ask you this before I let Bill respond to that. What were the final conclusions of the Meese Commission? Are they pretty basic, or was it generalized, or what?
The Commission reduced its findings to a 2,000-page report. We made 92 specific recommendations, but I'll summarize it all to say we found that material that depicts violence, material that's degrading and humiliating to women, is very harmful in our society. We found a lot of basis for that finding. We found that the Constitution doesn't protect it, and we found that laws against it will work. And one of the things that California needs, and of course you've been fighting a battle up in Sacramento there for several years, is the Miller Standard. The Miller Standard is the law in 43 states in this country, and we found every community where the Miller Standard's in place that wants to enforce the law, they can do it. 25 cities now have rid themselves of hardcore pornographic sales in either video stores or in these so-called hardcore porn shops.
Bill Margold, do you think the Miller Standard is a legitimate basis to try to objectify what is and isn't protected?
Well, the thing is, they're going to try and legalize. Essentially, they're going to try and give us more parameters to work within, because the X-rated industry is a very adaptive, chameleon-like animal, and it rises or lowers itself to the gutter-minded mentality of society today. The reason the X-rated industry exists, bottom line, because America has a dirty mind when it comes to sex, because America has a guilty mind when it comes to sex, and the only way that they can catharsize and relieve themselves is through the X-rated industry. If people like Sylvia and Alan could clean up America's mind, not with laws and not with preaches and morality testaments, then perhaps the X-rated industry would no longer have a reason to exist.
Bill, we agree with that point. We'd be delighted if people had no longer an interest or desire for this material, and I'm sure Sylvia and I
Absolutely.
would agree that it would be the best outcome. But in the meantime, we have a whole market for abuse. We have children that are being abused for profit. We have young girls being abused for profit.
That's not my business, Alan. It is
But
not my business, and I am not going to be held responsible for it, and neither is the X-rated industry. You cannot use us as a whipping boy.
Yes, we can use you as a whipping boy, Bill, simply because people who watch X-rated movies do become addicted, and children are abused, women are abused because of the X-rated industry.
That's so
and
easy.
You said a few minutes ago, we don't want to run you underground. That's right. We really don't want to run you underground. I want to run you out of business.
You will never
Oh, yes, we will.
succeed.
You'll see it. We will.
But
Yeah.
you'll never succeed
Oh, but
because
we
you
will.
can't eradicate X. It's a letter in the alphabet, and it's emblazoned in America's psyche.
We don't want to eliminate the X letter. We want to eliminate the X-rated industry.
Here.
Okay, be that as it may. Alan Sears, you had a comment.
I was going to say, the last 3 years, America has really turned around. And if we look, and Bill would have to admit this, we look at hardcore pornographic outlets. There have been more closed in the last 3 years than have opened. More porn theaters have closed than have opened. More video stores. We're now in a trend where for a couple of years, video stores were mushrooming in their sales and rentals of pornographic hardcore films. Now we've reached the crest in that area. And I predict that with the prosecutions that are going on, for example, in Minneapolis, Minnesota area, 23 stores were raided in the last few weeks. Federal investigations. There's a serious crackdown going on in Virginia and several other states with federal felony convictions in the air. I think we're going to see a major change. We've already seen 25 cities clean themselves up.
And Bishop
And I
Mahoney's
think
Commission on Pornography right here in Los Angeles, they're doing wonders as far as the X-rated video stores.
And I predict that if we continue at the present rate, we'll break the back of this criminal enterprise within the next 3 years.
I agree.
Well, but the X-rated industry itself, by sheer attrition, is breaking its own back because of the product that it puts on the market, because of the video onslaught. You're not driving the stores out of business. What's happening is that the public is wising up to the fact that the X-rated product in general is not as stimulating or as exciting as it used to be because of the video onslaught. You have not closed the theaters. It has become uneconomical to operate theaters showing film. Don't take credit for what you haven't earned. The X-rated industry itself is doing a pretty good job of driving itself out of business by its own ordinarianism.
Now, one thing I will agree with Bill on, John, is that the industry is driving itself out, because if they had been responsible individuals, if they had not gone out to the extremes, perhaps America would have been quiet, and they would have said, well, we'll let you get away with this much. But they wouldn't do that. They had to keep going further and further and exploit more and more people and destroy more and more lives. And as a result, the American people woke up and they said, we've had it. Thus far and no further.
Because there is no end to perversion. It's just like being addicted to a drug. One thing is not enough. You have a taste of one thing, you got to go on to something more, bigger, and then to the snuff-out films.
Okay, let me mention again my guest, Bill Margold. He's a 16-year veteran of the X-rated industry. Sylvia Sellers on the L.A. County Commission on Obscenity, and Alan Sears, who is the executive director of the Meese Commission on Pornography. We're going to open up the phone lines for comments or questions. The number's in the 818 area, 763-KKLA, and the 714 and the 213 area 750 KKLA. And while we're waiting for some callers to call in, let me just ask a couple more things here. When it comes to then standards, you're not really concerned then, Bill, about having some objective standard. You say the industry will adapt to that, and there will always be the demand.
Oh, of course there'll always be a demand, because there'll always be a new generation of people who want to pick up America's skirt.
Do you think you can work within the Miller standard?
Absolutely.
And for cocaine, but...
Cocaine has nothing to do with my business.
Stop it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am vehemently opposed to drugs. Vehemently opposed. My background includes being a probation officer for 2.5 years, and albeit the king is dead, but the king died from cocaine ingestion. That's what started his decline into the AIDS situation. Don't blame pornography for killing John C. Holmes.
Okay, let's go to the phones and take some phone calls. Let's go to Joe in Reseda. Hello, Joe, you're on the air.
Hi, Mr. Stewart. My name is Joe Bennett. I wanted to address Mr. Margold. You said that the pornography industry, you have to excuse me, I'm so angry here. You said it portrays love and lust. Lust, yes. No love. I'm a born-again Christian, and before I became a born-again Christian, you might say I was addicted to pornography. The mindset that viewing that kind of material gives you is not one that would portray any kind of love whatsoever. It makes you think in perverted ways. It does not make you want to have a normal, healthy, wholesome relationship with someone of the opposite sex. It makes you think of them as nothing more than an object to be used and then discarded. And you couldn't care less about that person's feelings or how you hurt them or how you treat them. It is something that is just wholly and totally detrimental to the good of society as a whole. You cannot hide behind this farce that it involves love whatsoever. It does not.
Okay, Joe, let's let Bill comment.
Why did you watch it, Joe?
Because I was sick.
Well, you were sick?
Yeah.
Did you achieve your aim by watching it?
That you thought that you present as it being something that was good, and it's not.
No. I'm asking you, did you achieve your aim by watching the X-rated vehicle?
I did not.
You did not?
Oh, I wanted, and have always wanted, to have a good and wholesome relationship with someone of the opposite sex, okay?
And you used X-rated pornography to use that as a bridge into the real world, supposedly?
Mindset. Viewing pornography never gave me the mindset that, hey, I want to get to know this person as a human being. I want to know what they are like inside. I want to care for this person. It never, ever gave me that feeling inside. It only made me want to use them for one purpose, and that was selfish, desirable lust, and then to get rid of them. It never instilled in me good qualities whatsoever.
Did you act out those feelings?
No, I did not, thank the Lord.
Joe, thanks so much for your comments. We're going to take another caller now. Let's go to Dean in Whittier. Hello, Dean, you're on the air.
How you doing, John?
Pretty good. What's up?
I have some comments to make. The gentleman that just got off the line cleared up a lot of it, but I started viewing pornography when I was 8 years old in the 3rd grade, and it took me 15 years to get away from it. And in that 15 years, I feel as though it's damaged me psychologically as far as being able to understand how to love somebody. Because I feel as though there's a lot of people out there will say that there's no love portrayed in any of the movies, no matter how quote-unquote soft core it turns out to be.
Well, Dean, have you had counseling since you've come out of pornography, and do you feel you were addicted to pornography? Was it a progression?
The progression was the fact that I'd started out with lighter materials and got to the point to where things like Hustler magazines weren't even good enough anymore because it wasn't sexy.
Exactly what I said.
Well, but what are you saying? You know, you're saying that you're easily led. That's sort of tragic.
Bill, wouldn't you say, though, that pornography can be addictive to some people, and therefore it's a law of diminishing return?
Well, but anything can be addictive to some people. The tragedy is that essentially there are those who are sheep and there are those who are shear.
Well, I would say that just from the last couple of callers, that may be indicative that a lot of people out there started at an early age.
That's a very sad situation. That then falls to the family responsibility.
So
this man was 8 years old and looking at, I believe, probably then some nudie books. I doubt he was looking at hardcore pornography.
But Bill, it's available, so the kids will pick up on it.
So are newsreels of war accidents, which people glorify in. Almost anything is available in our society today.
Well, I think that begs the question,
Are we to put people in stockades and prevent them from looking? My feeling is that a normal, healthy child will look at pornography, become bored, yawn, and go off to some other more healthy practice. When he's 18, 20, 21 years old, he might then go back into an X-rated film or two, find out that it's rather dull, and leave it forever.
But you can't say for sure that that child will look at that and be bored. If that were the case, we wouldn't have a X-rated video store on every corner in the United States of America.
According to Mr. Sears, we don't.
Well, that's all right. We've closed a lot of those up in the last few years, and we intend to close the others. But, Bill, see, you can't sit there and say that every child who looks at that's going to be bored and yawn. Give me a break.
Dean, thank you so much for those comments. We appreciate you pointing out your experience, which was similar to the other caller, and we'll take a break and come back and find out if others have similar experiences and some of their comments. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you remember your first Tommy's?
I moved out here about 6 months ago, and all I've been hearing about is this great little burger stand on Beverly and Rampart. So I go there. The place was a total zoo.
I get into this line of about 40 people and tell the cashier I want the double cheeseburger with everything. 2 seconds later, I'm handed this mass of meat, cheese, mustard, tomato, pickles, onions, all dripping with this chili that's everywhere. I help myself to a soda out of this old-fashioned cooler, grab a handful of paper towels, and join the droves of Tommy's fanatics at these stand-up counters.
So how was the burger?
I got it all over myself. I lost control and decided to just dive in.
But how was it?
Fantastic. These are the best burgers anywhere. Period.
Don't be fooled. When you want the real thing, look for the shack on the sign for the original Tommy's world-famous hamburgers, a Southern California tradition since 1946. Check the LA Times sports section for the location nearest you. Open soon in Canoga Park.
Now let's see what's happening on the freeways. This report brought to you by West Los Angeles Baptist School, where Bible-centered education isn't expensive, it's priceless.
On the San Diego freeway southbound, traffic is busy from LAX to the Carson area. San Diego southbound at the Long Beach Freeway, there's a disabled car in the number 2 lane. Hollywood northbound, south of Cahuenga, have got an accident clearing out of traffic. Artesia westbound, east of the 605, an injury accident involving an overturned car is reported. And on the Santa Ana southbound, just below Myford, another accident's just been reported. I'm Denise Fondo for West LA Baptist School and KKLA Traffic Watch.
West Los Angeles Baptist School has begun enrollment for 7th through 12th grades for the fall semester. They offer an exceptional academic program along with thorough Bible study, a wide range of extracurricular activities, and all subject matter is taught through a biblical Christian perspective. When you call, mention this ad, your $50 registration fee will be waived. West Los Angeles Baptist School, where Bible-centered education isn't expensive, it's priceless. Class sizes are limited, so call 213-826-8374. That's 826-8374. If you wear contact lenses, or would like to but can't, then this message will be of interest to you. While the benefits of contact lenses are numerous, wearers often complain of side effects such as dry eye feeling, itching, irritation, redness, and tearing. For some, these problems are so persistent that they have given up on using contacts altogether. Such symptoms are often related to what's known as tearing problems. Dr. Robert Herrick, ophthalmologist, is a specialist in this field. Dr. Herrick has been helping people who suffer with tearing problems for the past 10 years, allowing them to wear contact lenses without side effects or discomfort. Dr. Herrick is a diplomat with the American Board of Ophthalmology and a member of the American Medical Association. To schedule an appointment or to simply receive more information, you can call Dr. Herrick's central office at 800-527-5522. That's 800-527-5522.
Many Christians are walking around with a deep, aching, empty feeling. They've been told that God's the answer for them. But this frustrates them even more because they do believe in God, yet they still struggle with the issues of self-acceptance and inferiority. Join us as we discuss the crucial question, how can I feel good about myself? This week on Radio Bible Class Daily.
Heard at 9:15 a.m. Monday through Friday at 99.5 FM.
We have more of Jon Stewart live.
We're back. My guests today include Bill Margold. He is an actor and a director of X-rated films. He's a 16-year veteran of that industry. He testified in front of the Mies Commission. Alan Sears, by phone in Arizona, was the executive director of Attorney General Ed Meese's Commission on Pornography, and Sylvia Sellers, who is the executive director of Prevention of Child Molestation, and she's a commissioner on the LA County Commission on Obscenity and Pornography. And since we've been cutting in and out of phone calls, perhaps, Alan, if you want to make some comments on what we were talking about before the break?
Yeah, I sure do. We were unable to make comments while you had the callers, and both of the callers there really illustrated what the Commission found time and again. We had countless men write letters to the Commission telling us stories such as those fellows. So many of the young men told us that they had become involved with pornography at that early, tender age, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age. And we saw the work from such universities as Indiana University, Dr. Dolph Zillman, who found that even the milder forms of pornography cause tremendous changes in attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors about women. Even non-violent pornography, the hardcore pornography, does what Sylvia talked about earlier. It teaches people that women are whores by nature, that they secretly desire to be raped, and and on and on. For example, one of the studies, Dr. Zillman and Dr. Bryant, who was there at that time, who's now at the University of Alabama, conducted, was of attitudes toward rape victims. And they found that after viewing even some of the mild pornography for a very short period of time, that the average male had a tremendous lack of sympathy for the victim of a rape in a mock trial. It was a very well-done study. It's been duplicated on a couple of other campuses, and it's very consistent in showing that pornography creates negative attitudes. Even when the pornography itself doesn't show violence, it does justify violence against women, because women are whores. They're, by nature, a woman wants to be taken. When she says no, she means yes. And all these other incredible messages that the pornographers put out, whether they, even if we assume they had the purest motives, which we won't assume, but even if they had the purest motives, their product teaches a very evil lesson.
Okay, Alan, thank you for those comments. Let's go to the phones and find out from other listeners what their perspective is. Bill in Granada Hills. Hello, Bill, you're on the air.
Hello, John. A couple of things that I wanted to say. I am a Christian, but looking at it just from the point of view of what really happens out there. Kids, to start with, don't like to be seen. They, as they're growing up, they're going to want to protect their bodies. So we're looking as to whether something is acceptably right or not, just in how people react. And one of the things that Bill was talking about the industry was that it was getting dull. And that just proves what he said it didn't prove when he was saying that only a few of those who were followers wanted to get into more and more base forms of the pornography. It's a natural thing that's going to happen because, to start with, it's base.
You mean sort of a law of diminishing return, that at some point it will be boring because of the goals it seeks?
Correct. And it's going to get more and more boring, and that's when the problems, it's like anything else. And now looking at it as a Christian, when Satan gets into our lives, he doesn't get a foothold in the whole life, he gets a toehold in something. And this is one of the toehold areas. He gets into it. He gets in where somebody's looking at a picture that is supposed to be innocent because nobody is being hurt. But it grows from there into a cancer, and that cancer becomes overwhelming.
That's a beautiful analogy, but I don't believe that. I honestly believe that the child or the victimized young adult will turn away from the pornography after finding it dull. I do not believe he will look for more and more things. He'll not try and rub away the underpants on the page or turn the page upside down to hope that the woman falls off into his lap. I don't really honestly believe that. He will then turn to other more interesting stimulations.
Bill,
are you saying that people who watch pornography or look at pornographic magazines, it's only a one-time thing for them, that, I mean, they turn away and all of a sudden it's just dull. I wanted to do this for a one-night stand.
I'm saying it's a curiosity factor. I'm saying that sex has always been a curiosity factor, and once the curiosity is satisfied, you move on to other things.
Oh, you mean once you've had sex and you've satisfied your curiosity, there's no more of it?
No, because the X-rated industry is used as a catharsis, and I don't know if I'm allowed to use the word masturbation, but I can't believe that is in the 5 word situations. It's used as a catharsis. It's a healthy, necessary need.
It is not a healthy, it's not necessary. I just read you the research
Hold it. I have to referee here again. Let's take it one at a time. Let's see. Bill on the phone, you had a comment.
Yes, I did, John. It would not be in Bill's best interest to agree with what it is we're saying. When you're asking him for his feelings on it, look at where he's coming from. It is not in his best interest to agree on that. He is agreeing after the fact instead of before the fact. When he was a child, I doubt if he had any inkling of which way he wanted to go. But now that...
Go in what respect? What respect was I going to go to?
Well, either for or against pornography as you were growing up.
I never became obsessed with sex at all. I simply have lived a very healthy, normal sexual life. Just because I happen to perform sexual acts doesn't make me any more aberrant than you, sir.
It all depends on what your term of normal is and where you're coming with the base.
Heterosexual acts, and I get paid for them.
That normal is not, our bodies are not made for that.
Oh, yes, they are.
Bill in Granada Hills, thanks so much for your comments. We're going to step aside for a break and come back and talk further with my guests, Bill Margold, Sylvia Sellers, and Alan Sears. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Would you like to lose weight in time for summer? KKLA listeners are discovering a simple and effective way to lose their desired weight with the Univite Micro Diet. The key to losing weight and keeping it off is finding a diet that's easy to follow. That's why more than 2 million people love Univite. No menus to plan, no calories to count, no exotic foods to buy, no shots, and no pills. Univite is the most technologically advanced diet of its kind. Each meal is exceedingly rich in nutrients, protein, and fiber, and tastes great. And it's inexpensive. Most people actually save money on their food bill. Best of all, it works. The average weight loss is 16 pounds a month, and Univite has the highest success rate for keeping it off. Keep listening in the weeks ahead as we feature some of our KKLA listeners and staff who are losing weight with Univite. Call now and we'll rush you a free book on the amazing Univite Micro Diet. Or you can order our sampler pack and start losing weight today. Call 800-541-0900. That's 800-541-0900.
And now let's check up on the traffic in KKLA Traffic Watch Control.
On the San Diego Freeway southbound at the Long Beach, there's a disabled car in the number 2 lane. Hollywood northbound south of Cahuenga, an accident's clearing out of traffic. 210 eastbound is busy from Santa Anita to Irwindale. And on the Artesia westbound east of the 605, there's an injury accident involving an overturned car. I'm Denise Fondo for KKLA Traffic Watch.
Supervisor Mike Antonovich talks about the job.
You can't do this job unless you're ready to handle the disappointment and frustration. Then there are those great moments of success, which makes it all worthwhile.
And Mike Antonovich talks about people.
There are so many fine, decent people who ask so little of government. They just quietly pay their taxes and contribute to their communities. The people who make our country work.
And Mike Antonovich talks about government.
Government owes people safety in their homes and neighborhoods, drug-free schools, gang-free communities, a transportation system that works, an environment free of pollution. You know, when you get down to it, the job's all about enhancing the quality of life in our county. It's not too much for taxpayers to ask.
Supervisor Mike Antonovich, every day doing a tough job well. Paid for by Antonovich 88.
If you're behind on your payments, facing foreclosure, or having credit problems, you can still keep your house. J.M. O'Neill Mortgage Bankers have a special 9.9%, 10.98 APR adjustable rate loan. It's a 30-year fully amortized loan with no balloon payments. Once again, no balloons. J.M. O'Neill offers this unique loan with easy qualifications. Call 714-527-2122. Restore your credit with 9.9%, 10.98 APR. J.M. O'Neill Partners have over 30 combined years in real estate finance. They're a quality mortgage banker with a full line of product from new loans to refinancing and second. They'll come to your home from Orange County, Los Angeles, and the South Bay. With the upward pressure on rates right now, don't wait. In Orange County, call 714-527-2122. That's 714-527-2122.
And now more with Jon Stewart live.
We're back. We're talking about pornography and obscenity. What place, if any, does it have in society? My guests include Bill Margold, a veteran of the X-rated industry, Sylvia Sellers on the LA County Commission on Obscenity and Pornography, and by phone, Alan Sears, who was the executive director of Attorney General Ed Meese's Commission on Pornography. Let's go to Alan Sears before we go back to the phones. Alan, I know you just have a minute or so to stay with us here. Perhaps some final comments from you as far as where do we go from here, and what are your thoughts in terms of bringing this to the place where it belongs in decent society?
John, while we were on break, I listened to a couple of ads that were on the radio, and one of the people on the advertisement made a very appropriate comment to our discussion here. One of the few things that government owes all citizens is a right to a healthy and safe environment, an environment safe from crime, a place where women don't have to worry about being raped, children don't have to worry about being molested, an environment where there is not an attitude of hatred against women fostered by materials such as pornography. And when we talk about this issue across the country, the number one thing I tell people is that the issue with hardcore pornography, the illegal, obscene material, the child pornography, is whether or not a community, a state, a nation has a right to self-determination. Whether the people of our country and our various states can stop the pollution of our environment and the pollution of our minds and our very beings by the pornographers. Pornography, in my opinion, is hate literature. I've never seen anything the Ku Klan came up with or the Nazi Party came up with that was nearly as effective as pornography in teaching people to hate each other. And I'd like to see a country free of this pollution. I'd like to see a country where people were free to exercise that right to control. And I think one of the critical things that California needs is that Miller standard. And I know many people there have been discouraged because of big money lobbyists, because of politicians that are not responsive to the electorate. But I think a new day is coming. I think that, in fact, I'll make a prediction that we'll have the laws you need in California to deal with this issue soon. People there have just, they're to the breaking point.
Alan, thanks so much for spending time with us. Alan Sears is the legal counsel for Citizens for Decency Through Law and was also the executive director of Attorney General Misa's Commission on Pornography. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, John. I'm glad to be with you.
Blessings to you. Bye-bye. My guest now, Bill Margold, Sylvia Sellers. Let's go to the phones, take a couple more calls in the time we have left. Let's go to Jack in West Hollywood. Hello, Jack. You're on the air.
Hello, John. I would like to take issue with Bill. He said that pornography never killed anyone. I was abused as a child from between the ages of 4 and 7. And I developed a tremendous hatred for an aunt that was the principal abuser. And as a result, I escaped my abuse situation and was adopted by a family, but a good family. But when around puberty, I began to read pornographic books that I got from school, and they shaped my sexual appetites. I had such rage and hatred toward my aunt, but I had no release for it, and I had a denial problem of anger by that time, but then I transferred it into the sexual appetites. And as a result, for 4 or 5 years, I read pornographic books, and I began to feed on these stories where the woman was subjected to brutality and torture and rape.
But I don't think you needed pornography to do that. It sounds like you had already gone off the board with your hatred at 3 years old, and you're now using pornography as an easy scapegoat.
Well, Jack, wouldn't you consider yourself to be then a victim of pornography as well as abuse?
What I'm saying is that the pornography was so toxic.
Or reading.
Absolutely. In other words, I became a Christian when I was 16, and through an incredible miracle that just totally flushed all of that stuff out of my spirit and changed me around to a completely new person. But had that not, had Jesus Christ not intercepted that for me, then I would have eventually, without any doubt in my own mind, have tortured, raped, and killed.
Do you think you would have acted those things out?
Absolutely, I know I would have.
And you'd blame that on pornography, of course. Not that from 3 years old on you were being abused.
Well, the issue, Bill, what I'm saying is, the issue is that I had an anger problem that I had suppressed into total denial. But when the pornography, when I got hold of the pornography, and I saw what I read about these, these things that the men were doing to the women, I transferred the hatred of one woman onto any woman. And the sexual expression was the way that it would have come out from me.
Jack, I appreciate your comments. We're out of time. I'm going to have to wind things up here, but thanks so much for giving us your perspective and your experience.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Bye-bye. Before we leave, Sylvia Sellers wanted to mention the bill pending in California that would interact or bring in the Miller standard. Could you do it in 30 seconds?
Sure.
Tell us about the bill.
That's number 2786 by Senator H.L. Richardson, and it is the pure Miller standard, not watered down nor amended. And if we can get that through, the people of the state of California deserve the Miller standard. We are the porn capital of the world. And anything that causes a crime against women and children in this society,
which pornography doesn't.
and it does.
It most certainly does
not. A crime against a child is a crime that has no equal, and against women. And anything that is a detriment to people in our society, we don't need it.
That's true, so get rid of drugs first.
Well, we hope to do that as well. Okay, well, thank you to my guest, Bill Margold, and also to Sylvia Sellers for their participation in this discussion, lively discussion on pornography and obscenity. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you then. God bless you. Bye-bye now.
Sharing the word throughout your day on Kkla.
We're all living in a fast-paced society which pressures us from all sides. Our discussion today relates to the results of that pressure and stress, severe adjustment disorders. We invite your questions about this topic as live from Dallas, the Moody Broadcasting Network presents the Minirth Meyer Clinic program.